much everything going for me and a loving family,
Wow.
but I was educated about the Holocaust, which traumatized me and made me really think that you could have everything, but you could still die because of prejudice and because of hatred and dehumanization.
Yeah.
So I was been animated by fear and anxiety of the unconscious, of
Yeah.
the cruelty of the human heart when we dehumanize others. And I felt like I was 4 generations of permission to do this, that, you know, from refugees coming into America in the 1880s and the early 1900s to the American dream, being able to make a new life in a new world and be successful, and then helping me to study deeper threats.
Yeah.
So when I was 18, and I was the first of 4 children to go to college, and I started doing LSD, and I started feeling like the ego dissolution that you get, the sense of connection. So you're losing your individual sense, but you're gaining this sense of the collectivity, that we're all part of each other. And so I felt that fundamental sense of unity and connection was the antidote to genocide, to hatred, to all different disconnection from the environment. And that if more people could have this sense of our common unity, then when we looked up at all the different ways that we're different, that we would appreciate instead of be fearful. That if we really can help people have this, move through all the traumas, the layers that they are traumatized and don't really see people for who they are, but through the lens of trauma and multi-generational trauma. And if we can help them be spiritualized at the same time. So I felt
win-win.
Psychedelics is suppressed, and I have the luxury of this support from my family. So at age 18, I said, this is going to be what I do with my life.
Wow.
And it's kept seeming like a good idea. I'm lucky for that. Einstein said our technology has exceeded our humanity. And I think that's what we're all facing. That's why I wanted to drop out of college. I felt like my mind had been developed, but my emotions, my spirituality was underdeveloped.
Got it.
So in the history of MAPS, so I started MAPS as a nonprofit psychedelic pharmaceutical company in 1986. So we're now 34 years. We've raised about $80 million of donations. And so we're doing right now roughly $55 million experiment, which is to see if MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for post-traumatic stress disorder can make it through the FDA, can become a prescription medicine. I think that we've got a very good chance of medicalizing MDMA. Other groups are moving behind with psilocybin. Ibogaine is a drug that's one of our priorities for the treatment of opiate addiction.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're noticing over time, the stickiness of an experience?
Yeah, well, I'd say that's actually the most important question. I mean, you could have these unusual experiences, but do they last? What's the impact on your life? Houston Smith said there's a difference between a religious experience and a religious life. And so the integration is the important part. So the experience, and this is the same in treatment for people with PTSD, that you have these powerful experiences of opening, of healing, of letting out grief and sadness and fear, but it's the integration process that's so important to change the baseline. The other kinds of progress, we have been trying for 30 years to start research inside the Veterans Administration.
Wow.
Again, the idea is mainstreaming psychedelics. It's the fundamental, I think, mistake of the 60s, you could say, was self-identifying as a counterculture. And then you encourage this.
Turn out, drop in,
Now we're very close to having approval in 2 different VA systems.
Wow.
One of the psychiatrists that I've been talking to that's interested in going through our training program is a military psychiatrist at Walter Reed. He focuses on PTSD. He was just in the White House with the person that President Trump has assigned to prevent veteran suicides.
Wow.
And he told her about MDMA research, and now she wants to have a meeting.
Wow.
And it's
that's.
We also have a veteran who's attempted suicide 5 times and out of despair volunteered for our study, and now he's doing really well.
So the support is coming from every corner of the population, it sounds like. It's not just like a liberal thing or this thing.
Yeah, we have managed, because of the compassion for people that have suffered in the war, or women who've been sexually abused. And this is the essence of our method, is we're helping teach people to heal themselves. We're not the healers. They're the healers. We're the midwives. We're helping them go through this process, and they learn that these feelings that were so overwhelming to them, that they can process them, and that they can do that on their own after the drug. So the results at 2 months are actually not even as good as the results at 12 months. So
they get better over time.
better over time. Wow. So at the 12-month follow-up, 2/3 of chronic severe PTSD patients no longer have PTSD.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're doing it as a nonprofit. That's crazy.
Yeah, we're doing it, so it's nonprofit pharma.
And how many drugs have ever made it through the system as a nonprofit? Because most of them are...
Relatively few. So when I started MAPS in 1986, I was blissfully ignorant of the fact that no drug had ever been made into a medicine by a nonprofit.
Is there anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah,
anything we can do to be helpful?
That you can have these kind of crazy dreams that send you to a psychiatrist when you're 18 years old. Things that might seem like they'll never happen. That with persistence, if the need is there and the idea makes sense, even if there's massive opposition, over time, things can happen. And what I've seen now from being a parent, now I have children that are 25, 23, and 21, that where did the time go? You know, now they're not home. So a 20-year plan or a 30-year plan somehow doesn't seem very long now. And I think for those of us that are, I just think I'm incredibly lucky in the sense that in my own lifetime, I'm getting to see the change that I've been working for. And I think that that's very rare. Most people who work in social change movements, it's multi-generations. You can maybe push the boulder uphill a little bit, but to be able to start doing that and to see the change. So that would be the main message, not so much about psychedelics. That's just one example, but it's about this idea of having this dream and working to make it happen. And the one thing that made it so I didn't burn out is this idea of shifting from happiness from outcomes to effort. So if I was constantly like, you know, it's not working, it's not working, it's not working, I would have burnt out and given it up. But I somehow realized, because the opposition was so great, because I didn't know if it would ever work, I couldn't have my happiness dependent on whether it worked.
That's beautiful. Happiness and effort.
Happiness on, and then, I did a good thing today, or I had one good conversation, then I could go to bed happy.
That's beautiful.